All right, good evening. Today we're learning Maseches Bava Basra, Daf Tes, and as well much of Daf Yomi Aleph. As you can see, it's a zaftig piece of Gemara. We'll be going about 2/3 of the way down onto Yomi Aleph, and on Shabbos we'll do as much as we can, certainly into Yomi Aleph. I just don't know how far. And then Sunday is a reasonable blot. Monday is a short blot, but Monday night and Tuesday night I'm out of town. So I'll be recording and posting on both of those days. I might give one of them in person over Zoom. I'll keep you all posted. We're right now about a quarter of the way down on Daf Tes Amud Aleph at the 2 dots, and we're going to be speaking more tonight about tzedakah. And I was really torn because as I was preparing, numerous people were asking for tzedakah. Now, on the one hand, it's bittul Torah because tzedakah is bittul Torah. You're not supposed to you're not supposed to do that. At the same time, I'm reading all these Gemaras about how powerful it is to give tzedakah. And at the same time, I had no money on me. So it's a little bit of okay. Yeah, a little. Yeah, you need to get a Rav to paskin shaylas. I know, that's, it does. I mean, credit cards, not so posh. Tanu Rabbanan. We're not overly exacting when it comes to what a gabbai tzedakah does. Below behektashi gizbarim, the same is true with the treasurers of the Beis Hamikdash. Even though there is no text proof in a formal way, there is a remez. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, this pasuk can be found in Sefer Malachim Beis. We're not going to be overly mathematical with the people who have the money, the people who give out the money. We give a little bit of trust. It doesn't mean it's a free-for-all. It just means that we're not nickeling and diming. We gave them money in the beginning, and how much money is left. They said, don't worry, I spent it all. We trust them. Nowadays, that's not how things work. You need to have a P&L. Every penny is taken care of. Now we do public reports so the public know what kind of spending we do. Even though it's true that there is a guy that we trust and we're not going to micromanage everything he does, however, Yitzur v'yimne, out of the gates, you need to give him the right amount. That's what Rashi says 10, 12 lines down. From the beginning, you need to know what you're giving. You need to know, okay, I'm giving them $1 million and they have to give out that money. Shene'emar, because as the pasuk says, v'yatzur v'yimnu, also paskim malachim beis. Amar Ravuna bodkin l'mezonos ve'in bodkin l'ksus. A person comes to ask for money. If they're coming to ask for money for food, we're bodek. We check to see that they actually need it. However, when it comes to clothing, we are not bodek. We just take it at face value. If you can imagine, somebody walks in, they have a hole in the leg of their pants. Pashut that it's a busha, so we're going to change it out. So according to Rav Huna, we're bodek for mezonos. We do check a person's the financial status before we give them food, but not in regards to clothing. By same akrabi, by same svara. And there's a lot of Marim Makomos to support this approach, and then of course we're going to see a dissenting opinion. So here we go. It's embarrassing to walk around with clothes that have holes in them. Therefore, we don't ask any questions. If somebody shows up to Chicago Chesed or Chesed Chicago, I don't even know what it's called anymore. They have this whole big warehouse of clothing. Nobody blinks. Just take whatever you want because it's a busha. But when it comes to not having food, lo kamavaze, it's not embarrassing. I mean, there's an element of busha, but you're not physically embarrassed. The pasuk says, "Hello." The pasuk reads with a samach. It's written with a samach. Hello, paros lo ra'ev lachmecha. We're going to give out paros to give out to bread. However, it's besin ksiv. It's written with a sin, with a samach sound, but parosh, it could be read that way, v'hadar havle. We could analyze it as, before we give it out parosh, we have to do some clarification, and that's why we have to check when it comes to food. That if you see someone undressed, you got to give them immediately. All this is Shitas Rav Huna. Halfway down on Tes Melav, the Gemara says Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. Rabbi Yehuda says the opposite. He says, when do we check people? That's when they're coming to ask for clothing. All of a sudden, you want some clothing, I have to check and make sure your finances are in order. But vein bodkin mazonos, if a person wants food, nothing to talk about. Over here, we see as well that there are multiple Marim Makomos for the Shita. Rabbi Yehuda will soon see that we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda that we are bodek for clothing, but we're not bodek for mazonos. When a person's hungry, it's painful, not emotionally painful necessarily, it's physically painful. Hunger is a pain. But when a person has a clothes, they have clothes that have a hole in them, they have a shoe that has a hole in it, whatever the case may be, that's lo kametzarale. There is no physical pain. So it's interesting because if you look at the chakira between Rav Huna and Rabbi Huda, it seems to be that we're trying to measure which one has physical pain, that's one side, or no, which one has more emotional pain, seems to be the chakira. So that's the svara of Rabbi Huda, that we are bodek for ksus, but we're not bodek for mazonos. And ibai same akra, 2/3 of the way down. We read the word with a samach and uchid karina, like the word is read. That's what we do. We give out bread without even blinking. When you can see that they in fact need it, that's when you should do it. But you shouldn't just do it la'altar. You have to check and see what their financial status is. I have filled out so many financial aids in the last 16 years of sending my kids to day schools here in Chicago. Not a year has gone by. And now I have kids in like 5 institutions. So I filled it out 5 times. And it's not embarrassing. It's not just what it is. It's just, I wouldn't even say it's painful, just what it is. So of course, it has to be bodeg. You don't just get to call an institution and say, give me money. They say, how much money do you make? What do you spend your money on? And that's a totally fair and reasonable question. Anyways, we seem to paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. How do I know that? Because of the following line, 3 lines before the wide lines. Tanya Kavasi Rabbi Yehuda, the Bryce agrees. Amar Ksuni, if somebody says, I need you to give me clothing, bod kanachara, we do check. Parnasuni, if they're going to say, give me food, feed me, give me a little bit of money, ein bokin. Okay, next. Tanan Hasam, ein pochsin ani ha'over mimakom lamakom. If there is a person who is coming from city to city and he is collecting money, so the halacha is the minimum we can give them is mikikar bepunyon. We can give him a loaf of bread worth of punyon at a time when the market is me'arba sayin b'sel. We're not going to get into the math now, but there's a certain amount of bread. Lon, if a person is coming to town to find a place to sleep, nostin lo parnos taslina, we need to give them that which is deserving of them, of someone who's coming to sleep. And what is that? My parnos taslina, amara papa puria, that's a bed. Ubeisadya, Beisadya, Rashi says 3/4 of the way down. Dibramascha Beisadya kar, la seis me'ra'ash, it's a pillow. Okay, so you got to give a pillow and a blanket. It's clearly pillows are not so new. People have had them for a long time. Shabbos, let's say that this yid is staying for Shabbos, and nos and lo mazon shalosh sudas, then a person has to be provided by the community with 3 meals. Those are halachic meals. That's done. We'll discuss during the weekday in the coming block. But on Shabbos, we have to give them 3 meals. Tana, we have a brisa. This brisa is a tosefta in Maseches Peyam. That if a person is going door to door, then I know one person has an obligation to fund him. And the Gemara tells a story. A person was going door to door, and he came over to Rav Papa, and Rav Papa didn't take care of him. Rav Papa, I don't understand. If you don't take care of him, nobody else is going to take care of him. You're the Rav. Then no one's going to take care of him. So Leimusla, is the guy supposed to die? So Rav Papa says back, wait 1 second. We have a brisa tosefta from Maseches Peah that says, I don't need to do more than I'm doing. And he's the guy's going to be fine. Amar Lei, you misunderstood the brisa. And this is now Rav Sama Bred Rav Yeva's pushing back on Rav Papa, and he says, "Einis kakin lo matana meruba." You're right that you have no obligation to write him a check for $10,000. Avanis kakin lo matana muetes. You got to give a little bit of tzedakah. You shouldn't say nothing. Which piece? Yeah. I don't know the age bracket of Sama Bred Rav Yeva.
But it seems like he's addressing him as you're the person of stature, therefore you have to give him what he's going to die.
He also referred to him as Mar.
Right. That's my thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't see that they're going to get answered. But it seems.
Tosfos say 4 lines from the bottom. Dibramaslo is daki Rav Papa gabayha. Below nasan lo mina kupa. Well, at the end of the line, va'amar le Rav Sama, imar lo is daki le lases lo mina kupa. Hainuch de suda kolshken shkamachem lo yitnu lo. Umasek hadatanya enis kakin lo mina kupa hainuk de suda. Aval davar muad yitnu lo. Yeah, it seems like that's the case, that he pushed back on him. Yeah, they had to teach the brisa, the tosefta, in the right way. Again, I don't know the age bracket. They could have been peers. I don't know. All right, 12 lines from the bottom. A person should give 1/3 of a shekel every year. As the pasuk says in Nehemiah, "Be'emadnu aleinu mitzvos." mitzvos lasei salenu shlishis hashekel v'shana lavodas beis elokeinu. That's what the pasuk says, and the drasha is v'maravasi shkula. Yeah. V'maravasi shkula tzedakah kineged kol mitzvos. That we know that the mitzvah of tzedakah is equivalent to all of the other mitzvos. Shenemar v'he'emadnu aleinu mitzvos. Mitzvah ein ksiv kan ela mitzvos. So we make a diuk from the pasuk that we're talking about the plural. We're now going to see a siman of three things: Gadol and Mikdash and Moshe. 8 lines from the bottom. Amar Lazar, Rebbe Lazar. Gadol ha-me'aseh yoser mina oseh. It's greater to make someone, to bring someone to give tzedakah than it is for you to give the tzedakah yourself. If I can get you to give tzedakah, that's actually better than me, myself, giving tzedakah. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, V'aya ma'aseh tzedakah shalom va'avodas tzedakah hashket v'vetach ad olam. Zacha, if a person is Zocha, then Halo pros l'rav lachmecha, you'll be able to give out food to others. Lo Zacha, if you weren't Zocha to give out tzedakah, V'aniyim merudim tabi bias, then the government's going to come collect it from you. That's V'aniyim merudim, the poor ones who are rebellious, and the Mefarshim here explain. That's what Rashi says, 8 lines from the bottom of the page. Dibar maschan merudim. Zomim sheles romi shetzo ekes tamid havu sha'anu tzrichin. This was apparently, they weren't very good with their finances, I guess, the Roman government. Maybe one of the reasons why they're not here. So that's what the Gemara says, is that if you're not Zocha, then you'll end up paying it one way or the other. I beg of you, Usu bahade adadi. You guys need to take care of each other, so that you have peace with the government. You don't end up getting hit up by the government, because as discussed, if a person doesn't take advantage of the opportunity to give charity, so then the government will collect from them. V'amar Rebbe Lazar, again, a lot of this is Rebbe Lazar. Bizman shbeis mikdash hayakayim. Adam shokel shiklo miskaper lo. A person would give a shekel, they'd be fine. They'd get their kapara. Achshav she'ein beis hamikdash kayim. But now that Nebuch, there is no beis hamikdash. Im osin tzedakah mutav. If you do tzedakah, you're going to be fine. Very powerful Gemara. If not, then the non-Jews, the Avdei Avodah Zarah, will come take it by force. The Afal Pikain, and if they do in fact take it from you, Nechshav Lahen Tzedakah, it's still going to have some degree of quality of tzedakah. Shene'amar, because the pasuk says v'nogsayich tzedakah. Even when you are oppressed, it's going to still be considered tzedakah. Amarava hainilsa ishtaili. There was a story that was told to me, and this word looks like ula from the person's name, but it's actually from the word olel, which is one who misbehaves, as we'll soon see. This person was referred to as ula, mishagish archasei de'ime, top of Testament base, that this person drove his mother crazy, and we'll see soon that this is talking about Rav Sheshes, and this is Mishmed Rebbe Lazar. My dichsiv, what does the pasuk mean by Yalbesh Tzedakah kishiryon? That one wears charity like a shiryon, which is like armor. Lomar lach, shiryon zeh, kol klipa o klipa, means darefes a shiryon gadol. You could imagine the small little scales that one would wear over their shoulders. Back in the day, the knights would wear these kind of small scaled items. And even though no one piece is able to cover the body, but all the pieces together in aggregate are able to protect the body. You got people walking through our shoulder. No $1 that anybody gives is a game changer. But when you add them all together for the thousands of interactions that they have, it makes a big difference. Rav Chanina Amar Mehacha, we'll actually learn it from another place. It's from the word beged. Uchebeged edim kol tzid kosenu. What does the word uchebeged mean? Ma beged zeh kol nimo nimo mitzarafes beged gadol. Just like with clothing. No one thread makes a sweater or makes a shirt, makes pants. No one thread does it. But all the threads together, and when they're put together well, avsaka kol pruta pruta mitzarafes l'cheshbon gadol. Amai kar le ula mishagish archasei de'imei. Why was this person called? We'll soon see again, Rav Sheshes, this mischievous person who drove his mother crazy. There was a question, excuse me, that was asked to Rav Sheshes. How do you know that a Metzora who's in the days of his counting to become Torah, that he's Matame another person? Amar lo, Rav Sheshes said back, says the Gemara, because he's Matame Begadim, so then Pashad is Matame Adam. Amarlei Dilmatuma Bechaburim Shiny. Maybe it's different that the person is connected, that the clothing is on the person. So he said the Vela de Matame Begadim Eno Matame Adam. We have case scenarios where it's not like that, where a person's not wearing a garment, and we see a distinction between Tumas Begadim and Tumas Adam. Amar Le, Rav Sheshes says, Vela sheretz de matame adam minolan. What about a sheretz? We have the same principle over there. La mishum de matame begadim, and therefore it's also matame adam. So Rav Sheshes is pushing hard. Amar Le, sheretz bejek sibe. No, you can't say that because by sheretz, we have a black on white pasuk. The pasuk says, "O ish asher yigad b'chol sheretz." Rav Sheshes continues pushing. El shechva zera the matame adam minalan. What about shechva zera? If a person has a seminal emission, la mishum dehol matame begadim matame adam. Maybe we can learn from there as well that just like zera, shechva zera is going to be matame begadim, it's also matame adam. So that's how we know in our case that a mitzvah b'mei svuro is going to be matame adam. Says the Gemara, no. Amar le shechva zera nami behejek sibe o ish l'rabos sanoge labdafka. You can't learn from shechva zera. So, anyways. Every time that Rav Achtavoy would push against Rav Sheshes, he did so in a way that was joking, almost in a mocking way. Ahader le b'dichusa. He would respond in a way that was kind of joking, disparaging a little bit. And Cholash daite de Rav Sheshes. It kind of made Rav Sheshes feel a little bit insulted. We're halfway down on Testament Beis, and because of this, Rav Achtavoy bar Ami got a punishment. Ishtik Rav Achtavoy bar Ami v'isyaker talmudei. He became a mute and he forgot all of his Torah. Yikes. It's not good to be disparaging, apparently. I think we knew that already, but this story is not pleasant. His mother, it's a machlokas, whose mother we're talking about. Is it the mother of Rav Achtavoy, or is it the mother of Rav Sheshes? The pashas of the Gemara is that it's Rav Sheshes, his mother, as we'll soon see, because but they went over to Rav Sheshes and said, come on, you have to daven for Rav Achtavoy bar Ami. He wasn't trying to hurt you, just okay. He's he just was a little disparaging, but it wasn't meant to be in the way you need to daven to heal him. Nobody, he wouldn't listen. Amrale, and this is how we know it's Rav Sheshes' mother and not Rav Achtavoy's mother. Rav Sheshes said, "Chazi lahani chadoi the matzis minayu." Look at these chadoi. Rashi says, "Lahani chadoi," 2/3 of the way down. Hadadim halalu. Look at these breasts. She said of herself, "The matzis minayu, from which you came from." So obviously that's Rav Sheshes' mother. Seems to be that he nursed from her. So she pulled the mom card and said, I nursed you to who you are today. You have to listen to me. And then he listened, Taka. And then he davened for Achtavoy bar Ami, and he was healed. What we don't have, however, is an answer to the question that started all of this, which is, how do we know that if a person is in Yimei Svuro of being a Mitzorah, he's in his days of counting to become a Tahor from being a Mitzorah, how do we know that he's Matame Begadim and Adam? Minalan, with the Asan Allah, Minalan, that which we've been discussing. What's the answer? Says the Gemara, Kedatanya, Reb Shimon ben Yochai Omer, Ne'amar Kavos Begadim b'mei Svura, Ne'amar Kavos Begadim b'mei Chaluta. We have the language of Kibus Begadim by Yimei Svura. Those are the days when he's counting toward Tara. And as well by the Yimei Chaluta, those are the days before he was counting, right after he became Tameh, but before he started the Sfiras Yomim. So we have our answer. We have our answer. 2/3 of the way down, another din by Rabbi Lazar. Amar Rabbi Lazar, Gadol ha'osed tzedakah b'seser Yosem Moshe Rabbeinu. That is an unbelievable line. It's really almost hard to fathom that there's something as great, if not greater, because we have the famous, well-known line, Moshe ad Moshe lo kam k'Moshe, reference to the Rambam, that between these two Moshes, there really hasn't been anyone similar. However, we, as regular people, and we are regular people for the most part, we are able to be greater than Moshe Rabbeinu. Gadol ha'osed tzedakah b'seser Yosem Moshe Rabbeinu. Dilu b'Moshe ksiv, dilu b'Moshe Rabbeinu ksiv ki agorti mipnei ha'af ve'achema. That there was a fear of af and chema. Dilu b'osed tzedakah ksiv matan b'sefer yachaf ve'af. That we can shut down the af. So we see that there's an element of power in the tzedakah that's greater than even Moshe Rabbeinu. Upliga de Rav Yitzchak. However, this shot that we just gave doesn't work for Rav Yitzchak. Tamar Rav Yitzchak af kofe, that anger will be shut down, but chema eno kofe, and the chema, that level of anger, is not going to be shut down. Shneimar b'shochad b'chek chama aza. That even if there is shochad b'chek, and Rashi says that this is talking about a case shochad b'chek, Rashi says that this is 10 lines from the bottom, shehu osed tzedakah b'seiser, even though the language seems to be speaking about bribery. He says, even if a person is going to give that way, there still is tremendous anger, which means it's not much different than Moshe. And Nika de Amre, some say there's another hope shot in this pasuk anyways. Amr Vizchak kol dayan shenotel shochad. Any dayan who takes a bribe, maybe chama azal olam, brings a tremendous anger to the world. Shneimar v'shochad b'chek v'gomer. This is a more pashut pshat in the psukim where shochad means bribery. The previous version of this pasuk was explained not as that, but as someone who's giving tzedakah b'seiser. That brings us 4 lines to toward the end of the short lines on Testament base. Anyone who gives a pruta to a poor person gets 6 brachos, and anyone who is mefayis them with words, they make them feel good. What are they? We're not going to go into this in full detail, but and on the side you can see in the Hagos Habach what the rest of the reading is here of all the 6 brachos. What about the fact that if I'm very nice to someone when they come to my door, that I am misparach be'achas esrei brachos shenemar v'tapek l'rab nafshecha v'nefesh ne'netasbia v'zerach b'choshech orcha v'afilascha k'tzoraim v'nochacha Hashem tamid v'ashpeh b'tzachos nafshecha v'gomer uvanu mimcha charvos olam mostei dor v'dor tekomim. All of these beautiful blessings that a person gets just from being makabel adam mesever panim yafos. They knock on your door, you're a spitz mensch. Offer them a drink, welcome, how can I help you? That was a chinuch in my home. I remember as a child, and I make my children do it now all the time. Please go get a glass with a cup with ice and water. We do it all the time, or we're a little more relaxed. Please get this person a bottle of water. It's a little bit more chill. It's not Southern. I'm a Chicagoan. I'm not a Charleston boy. So the Gemara then says 3 or 4 lines into the wine lines. V'amar Rav Yitzchak. What does this pasuk mean? If a person chases after tzedakah b'chesed, what will he find? He'll find tzedakah. So if I give tzedakah, I'm going to be shaykh to tzedakah. Does that mean I'm going to need tzedakah if I give tzedakah? Mishum derodev tzedakah yimtzat tzedakah. I don't understand pshat in the pasuk. Says the Gemara, you'll be wealthy enough that you'll be able to give tzedakah. Note that we want to be able to give the money to the right people so that one can be mekabel schar. La'afuke mai. What does this come to preclude? La'afuke mi de darash rabba. Or as we can see on the side a little bit differently, let's find the right marmakom, that it's really rava. To darash rava. My dechsiv, what does the pasuk mean? This is a pasuk in Yirmiyah. The pasuk says, "V'yehyu muchshalam lefanecha ba'es apcha asevahem." What is this talking about? Rashi says, "V'yehyu muchshalam lefanecha es anshe anasos hayemekalel shemevakshim nafsho." These are bad people, so he didn't want that. He darshan this pasuk in a bad way. Amar Yirmiyah nekodesh baruch hu bono shalom. Vilu v'shash kofen es yitzar mevakshim lasos tzedakah lefanecha hachshilem. These people are bad people. We don't want them to get schar. They're bad people. Anyone who's regular to give charity will merit to have sons who are wise, sons who are wealthy, and sons who are ba'alei agada, some form of teaching. That's what, again, ba'alei agada is agadata. Fine. Ba'alei chachma, how do we know that the father who gives charity regularly will have children who are Baalei Chachma D'chsiv, as the pasuk says, Yim Tzachai, top of Yud Amud Aleph. We're going to be going about 2/3 of the way down, and then we'll call it a day. Baalei Osher D'chsiv Tzedakah, and Baalei Agada D'chsiv V'chavod. Because Ksiv Hacha V'chavod, Ksiv Hasam, Kavod Chachamim Yinchalu. So we see a link over there between the 2 kavods and Chachamim. Okay, fine. Tanya, Hayir Reb Meir Omer, Yesh lo lebal hadin lahashivcha v'lomar, Imelokechem oevanim hu ipnei ma einon mefarnesan. Kadosh Baruch Hu loves everybody. Why does he make people poor? If you're kol yachol, so then just give the poor people money and shalom al Yisrael. Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have a bank account with limits. Just give people what they need, what they want. So you could have a rasha, you could have a critic saying, "What kind of God do you have?" Mipnei ma einon mefarnesan. So you should just know, you should have your answer in pocket. And more low, kadesh nitzol anu fahen midinam shel gehenim. Because when we do a ma'aseh tzedakah, that saves us midinam shel gehenim. And in fact, this conversation took place with Zu She'ela, Sha'al mitur nesurfas harasha Rabbi Akiva. This conversation really happened. What did Tur nesurfas harasha actually say to Rabbi Akiva? Imelokechem ohev aniyimhu mipnei ma eino mefarnesim. If Hashem is kol yachol, why didn't he give people what was shaykh to them? Amar like this, shenitzal anu b'hen medina shel gehenim. Reason why is, as Rabbi Akiva said to Tornus Rufus, was because when I give tzedakah, says Rabbi Akiva, it saves me midin shel gehenim. Amar lo, Tornus Rufus is a shtickle pikeach. A lot of evil people are very smart. That's usually how the world turns. Amar le adarabba. Zu shemechayavtan gehenim legehenim. This person's deserving of gehenim, and Tornus Rufus gives a beautiful mashal, a horrible mashal. Em shalachol mashal amal davar doma. The melech basar v'dam shekas al avda v'chavsha b'beis asur. There's a king, and he has an eved, and he's angry with his eved, and he puts him into prison. V'tziva alav shalol ha'achila v'shalol hashkoso. The command that the king gave to this eved who he's angry with is do not feed them and do not give them what to drink. But some guy broke the king's wishes. Some guy was sneaking food into the prison. Turnus Rufus says, look, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're his eved, and he's upset at you right now, and he made you poor. Who has the right to go? You're supposed to die now. That was a tzivui from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Turnus Rufus is trying to be a lamda shagai and say that no, you don't deserve to have any food at all. V'atem kriyim avodim. Turnus Rufus is now quoting Psukim and Chumash. He says, you guys are avodim. Shenemar ki li b'nei Yisrael avodim. You guys are avodim to me. And that is a pasuk in the Torah. So therefore, Turnus Rufus thinks he has a svara. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to be poor, then you should be poor, and no one should be able to feed you. So says the Gemara in the third line of the middle width lines, about a quarter of the way down, Amar Rabbi Akiva, you've misunderstood the mashal. Amar Rabbi Akiva, let me give you a mashal, because you, Turnus Rufus, are an Am Ha'aretz. You're a Rosh Gomer. You don't understand what's going on. Let me explain. The Melech Basra v'dam shekas al, not al abdo, al beno. Kadosh Baruch Hu is upset with his son, with us, because we make mistakes. And the son is put into prison. And yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sometimes has to put difficult gzeros on us in order for us to be on the straight and narrow course corrections, as it were. Now, here someone rebels. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees that we are taking care of our brothers and sisters, don't you think HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be happy and send us a gift? You're 100% right. We're not always righteous, and we make mistakes. And because we make mistakes, sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to give us a difficult lot. Sometimes that means that we're poor. Don't call me an Eved, call me a Ben. I'm a Ben who made a mistake. And when I'm in prison and I'm under this difficult gzera, and we see therefore that someone's feeding the child of the king, he's going to get gifts. The Anan, says Rabbi Akiva to Turnus Rufus, Korean banim. We're not avadim only, we're banim. Tichsi banim atem Hashem Elokechem. So Amar lo, Turnus Rufus says back to Rabbi Akiva, atem kriyim banim v'kriyim avadim. Bisman she'atem osrim mitzono shel makom atem kriyim banim. When you're being righteous, when you're doing well, yeah, you are called banim. Ubisman she'ein atem osrim mitzono shel makom atem kriyim avadim. But it's not always like that. Sometimes you're called avadim. Ve'achshav ein atem osrim mitzono shel makom. And right now, you seem to be guilty of sin. So I don't understand what you're saying, Rabbi Akiva. You want to give me this mashal that you're a ben, but when you're not acting like a ben, then you're an evet. And if you're an evet, you taka deserve death. So if HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes you poor and you have no food, no one should be able to help you. Amar lo, however, says the Gemara, that Rabbi Akiva pushes back one final time on Turnus Rufus. Harehu omer, halo paros l'ra'ev lachmecha v'anim rudim tabi bayis. Amosai, anem rudim tabi bayis. When is it, says Rabbi Akiva, that we're supposed to feed the people who are poor? That's ha'idna nowadays. And even though nowadays we're not righteous, nevertheless, the Torah gives us a mandate that even though we really are avadim, and really we aren't deserving of everything that we get, people who are poor aren't deserving of everything they get, still, we need to feed them. This is a very well-known Gemara, what we're about to learn, a third of the way down, 2 lines before the very wide lines on Yud and Aleph. Darash Rabbi, who is that? Rabbi Yossi. Should be Rabbi Yossi Baribi. Let me just double check. Yep, Rabbi Huda. Darash Rabbi Huda Baribi. Rabbi Huda Baribi Shalom. Kishem Shem Zanosav Shel Adam Ksuvla Mi Rosh Hashanah. Just like a person's mizonos are set in place by Rosh Hashanah, Kach Chesronosav Shel Adam Ksuvin Lo Mi Rosh Hashanah. The same is true for their chesronos. And zacha, if a person is zoche, that whatever he loses is halo pros l'rab lachmecha, he'll be able to replace it. Lo zacha v'anim rudim tavi bais. And if not, then the government's going to take his money. If it's not given out in a healthy way, if he's not losing his money to tzedakah, he's going to lose it by government. Kiha de bnei achte de Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. These are the sons of the sister of Yochanan ben Zakkai, Yochanan ben Zakkai's nephews. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was tremendous, and he had a prophetic dream. Chaza lehu. He saw them in a dream. Bechilma. De bo lemichsar shva mea dinri. They had to lose this fiscal year. They had to lose 700 dinar. Asinhu shekel minar litzdakan. He created this ruse. I need you to give to this organization. You called me for my charity campaign. I'm calling you for your. We're just going to work it out. He gets 700, almost 700 out of them. But poshka baihu shivsar dinri. He only managed to get 683 out of them. There were 17 dinarim that were left that were not yet collected. Kimatu mala yom kippuri. When they got to Erev Yom Kippur, Shadr the Bekesar and Naktinhu, the people of the Caesar, they showed up and they asked him for exactly 17 dinarim. Amar Luhur Yochanan ben Zakkai lo tidchalun. He said to the nephews, you don't need to be scared. Shivsar dinri gabaychu shaklinhu minachu. He's only going to take 17. And it was taka true. So he looked like a Baal Mofes. And they said to him, Amrei lam, no yadat. How did you know that? So Amar Luhu chelma chazoi luchu. That is a Baal Mofes. What does that mean? If you're having dreams about exactly how much cheshbonos people have in their bank account, then you're a Baal Mofes. That's what the Gemara says. Amar lei ve'amai lo amraslan denei svinu. Uncle Yochanan, you should have told us in the beginning of the fiscal year. We would have written you a check on day one. What's up with all the games? So he says, Amar Luhu, Amina ki hechi de te'avdu mitzvah lishma. Unbelievable. Because we want to make sure that a person is going to do a mitzvah lishma. Eino doma doing a mitzvah lishma versus a mitzvah shelo lishma. Rav Papa have a salik bedarga. Rav Papa was going up a ladder. Ishtamit kare, his foot slipped, and boy lemepal, and he almost fell. He ended up saving himself, and he didn't fall. Amar hashta kain, had it been that I would have fallen and died, then if I would have been held accountable like man de sanilan, like someone who's hated, who nowadays will die in those types of ways, because they really should be chayiv skila, whatever the punishment is. Amar lechia bar of difti l'Rav Papa, an unbelievable line. Shema ani bal yarcha v'lo parnasasa. Shem Yirachem. Halacha is so sensitive. We should be so sensitive that we shouldn't let people pass by without giving them if they're asking. Again, they can't be mevatel our Torah. They can't be mevatel our davening. I'm not. There are halachos, but nevertheless, it's our obligation to try and thread the needle and give wherever we can. And if not, then that's what the Gemara says, that perhaps Rav Papa slipped on the ladder because he didn't give to someone. The Tanya. Rabbi Shubin Korcha Omer, Kol Amalim Einav Minat Tzedakah Kilu Oved Avodas Kochavim. Now you can see a link between what happened to Rav Papa and his reaction, where he compared himself to an Oved Avodas Kochavim. Here, the Gemara says, anyone who's Malim Einav Minat Tzedakah, if a person turns a blind eye to charity, so then it's as if they worshipped Avodah Zarah. Why? So we see this very strong comparison between overlooking opportunities to do charity and avodah zarah, and that's why perhaps Rav Papa slipped on the ladder, because he overlooked an opportunity to give. We're going to stop right here at Tanya, which is about 20 lines from the bottom of Yud Amud Aleph, about 2/3 of the way down on Yud Amud Aleph. We'll stop here. We'll pick up on Shabbos. Amir Hashem, I think, shares at like 6:58 or something on Shabbos afternoon. Wishing you all a beautiful night.